Numbers. Chapter 33. Verse 1. Here are the stages in the journey of the Israelites when they came out of Egypt by divisions under the leadership of Moses and Aaron. Verse 2. At the Lord's command Moses recorded the stages in their journey. This is their journey by stages. Verse 3. The Israelites set out from Ramesses on the 15th day of the first month, the day after the Passover. They marched out defiantly in full view of all the Egyptians. Verse 4. Who were burying all their firstborn, whom the Lord had struck down among them. For the Lord had brought judgment on their gods. Verse 5. The Israelites left Ramesses and camped at Succoth. Verse 6. They left Succoth and camped at Etham, on the edge of the desert. Verse 7. They left Etham, turned back to Pi-hahiroth, to the east of Baal-zephon, and camped near Migdol. Verse 8. They left Pi-hahiroth and passed through the sea into the desert. And when they had traveled for 3 days in the desert of Etham, they camped at Marah. Verse 9. They left Marah and went to Elim, where there were 12 springs and 70 palm trees, and they camped there. Verse 10. They left Elim and camped by the Red Sea. Verse 11. They left the Red Sea and camped in the desert of Sin. Verse 12. They left the desert of Sin and camped at Dophkah. Verse 13. They left Dophkah and camped at Alush. Verse 14. They left Alush and camped at Rephidim, where there was no water for the people to drink. Verse 15. They left Rephidim and camped in the desert of Sinai. Verse 16. They left the desert of Sinai and camped at Kibroth Hattaavah. Verse 17. They left Kibroth Hattaavah and camped at Hazeroth. Verse 18. They left Hazeroth and camped at Rithmah. Verse 19. They left Rithmah and camped at Rimmon Perez. Verse 20. They left Rimmon Perez and camped at Libnah. Verse 21. They left Libnah and camped at Rissa. Verse 22. They left Rissa and camped at Kehelatha. Verse 23. They left Kehelatha and camped at Mount Shepher. Verse 24. They left Mount Shepher and camped at Haradah. Verse 25. They left Haradah and camped at Makelath. Verse 26. They left Makelath and camped at Tahath. Verse 27. They left Tahath and camped at Terah. Verse 28. They left Terah and camped at Mithkah. Verse 29. They left Mithkah and camped at Hashmona. Verse 30. They left Hashmona and camped at Moseroth. Verse 31. They left Moseroth and camped at Bene Jaakan. Verse 32. They left Bene Jaakan and camped at Hor Haggidgad. Verse 33. They left Hor Haggidgad and camped at Jotbatha. Verse 34. They left Jotbatha and camped at Abrona. Verse 35. They left Abrona and camped at Ezion-Geber. Verse 36. They left Ezion-Geber and camped at Kadesh, in the desert of Zin. Verse 37. They left Kadesh and camped at Mount Hor, on the border of Edom. Verse 38. At the Lord's command Aaron the priest went up Mount Hor, where he died on the first day of the 5th month of the 40th year after the Israelites came out of Egypt. Verse 39. Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. Verse 40. The Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in the Negev of Canaan, heard that the Israelites were coming. Verse 41. They left Mount Hor and camped at Zalmonah. Verse 42. They left Zalmonah and camped at Punon. Verse 43. They left Punon and camped at Oboth. Verse 44. They left Oboth and camped at Iye-Abarim, on the border of Moab. Verse 45. They left Iye-Abarim and camped at Dibon-Gad. Verse 46. They left Dibon-Gad and camped at Almon-Diblathaim. Verse 47. They left Almon Diblathaim and camped in the mountains of Abarim, near Nebo. Verse 48. They left the mountains of Abarim and camped on the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho. Verse 49. There on the plains of Moab they camped along the Jordan from Beth Jeshemoth to Abel Shittim. Verse 50. On the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho the Lord said to Moses. Verse 51. Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into Canaan. Verse 52. Drive out all the inhabitants of the land before you. Destroy all their carved images and their cast idols. And demolish all their high places. Verse 53. Take possession of the land and settle in it. For I have given you the land to possess. Verse 54. Distribute the land by lot, according to your clans. To a larger group give a larger inheritance, and to a smaller group a smaller one. Whatever falls to them by lot will be theirs. Distribute it according to your ancestral tribes. Verse 55. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land, those you allow to remain will become barbs in your eyes and thorns in your sides. They will give you trouble in the land where you will live. Verse 56. And then I will do to you what I plan to do to them. Quote,